You're gonna cut that out. Welcome to my channel.
Hi, welcome everybody. So the Titan we'll be interviewing today is Lauren. Lauren, thank you for joining us. So jumping right into it. The first chapter is called Accept, right? So you are a successful young woman. You've achieved a lot of milestones in your life, and I mean your life is only just beginning as a career woman. Tell me, getting into Stellenbosch University, I think we'll focus on that. So what kind of responsibility did you have to accept to be the first person in your family? You have three other siblings to actually attend university even before your parents. What kind of responsibility did you have to accept to get into Stellenbosch University?
Well, I had to accept the fact that firstly my parents couldn't afford for me to go to university, which meant that I had to work extra hard. So I was lucky enough to have had people around me at school and be part of a program that introduced me to things like bursaries and student loans, because I don't think a lot of people understand if you don't have money there are other ways and means to go to university. But all the bursaries and student loans, there was a criteria for it. So I basically had to accept the fact that there was no more like thinking about what I wanted to do and second guessing myself. I had to dive in. I had to work my behind off because there was no other way I was going to get to university but by working hard and hopefully getting a bursary. So yeah, that's just what I had to do.
Okay, great. So with the visualized part, right? When did you decide that you would attend university, or what made you so different? I mean, were you in primary school when you saw yourself at university? Were you in high school that you saw yourself in university? How did you see yourself being in university? And I mean, you didn't even mention the fact that you got into the top res at Stellenbosch University. I mean, where did you see yourself? Did you visualize yourself being in the top res? What was that like?
So primary school and high school, I actually didn't think about university because it wasn't the norm for me and my family and people in my community to go to universities.
Yeah.
I didn't see a university. I just thought, I want to be successful one day. I'm going to work hard to get there. And it's only when I was part of this elite school group. They were called Rachel's Angels. So what they did was they took the top 7 learners of every school, and it was public schools, so schools that had the potential. And what they would do is they would assign a Stellenbosch University student as your mentor. And that person, we would have weekly training sessions where they teach us study techniques and different things, and that's where I got exposed to university because I had a mentor at varsity and he was studying a BCom in financial management, and I basically did visits to university and he explained to me what university is all about and how doors open up for you. So it's only then, and I think I was grade 11, so it's only then when I got into this program. I had no idea what it was about, and the teachers at my school just said, it's a leadership program, it's going to help grow you, it's going to help make you be a better person, that I joined this group. And then only I started being exposed to that world, and once I was exposed to that world I just had to have it. I couldn't see myself going from high school to just a normal job. There was no way that was going to happen because I wanted to be better. I wanted to be the greatest. I wanted to be, just better than my surroundings. So once I got into the program, I visualized myself being on campus, sitting in a classroom with 300 other students, making my mark, being at res because there was no way I was going to stay at home and just travel to campus. I wanted the full experience. I wanted to live the campus life, and I think that's what pushed me in the last 2 years of my schooling career to just keep on pushing and trying my best to get there, because when I saw what that world could open up to me, I just had to be a part of it.
That's quite interesting, because a lot of our Titans mentioned that they had an idea of the greatness they would achieve and the massive goals they would achieve, but only when they got into the environment and experienced the environment did the picture solidify in there and they were able to visualize more clearly. Was that the same for you?
Definitely. It was a case of, like I said before, I didn't picture a university. I just knew I wanted to be something different. I knew I wanted to be great, and I was destined for greatness because just my whole life was always, I was always a little bit different, always being like the top learner at school for academics, and whatever I put my mind to, I kind of just make it perfect, whether I have the experience in it or not. So that was always me. If I put my mind to something, I do it to the best of my ability. And when I saw that there's this opportunity where I could go to university and become a student, and a lot of people around me at the time, I think only out of a high school of about 180 learners that matriculated, we were only 4 that went to university. 4 of us that actually got into university. So around you, people looked at you and they were like, what are you even talking about university and going to study? And there was no money for that. A lot of us didn't have money, so we all went on bursaries. We all went on student loans. It wasn't a case of, and I think the 4 of us really just motivated one another to say, if we don't go to university, what is life even going to be? So I think just once I was exposed to that world, I could start seeing myself and visualizing myself in that space, and I just knew it had to be done, because I knew from that moment on that my life would obviously change.
That's really cool. Because the next chapter is called Declare, right? So you accepted, you visualized. Who did you declare it to? Who did you tell it to? I mean, it must have been a shock for a lot of people to tell them, I'm going to university, even though you're this poor girl from this poor rural area with this great academic track record. So who did you declare it to?
Well, the first people I declared it to were my friends, because lucky enough for me, I surrounded myself with people. I only had like 4 friends at school. And I surrounded myself with people that also wanted to go to university, and
so
we
they didn't laugh at you?
No, we kind of just made a pact and said, you know what, we're gonna do this, because they were also part of this program with me, and we all spoke about what it would be like to be at university and then graduate and get a good job and like sort our lives out and be different to what our parents has been exposing us to, And those were actually the first people I told before I told my family. And I think when I came home to tell my parents that I was going to university, both of them just looked at me with big eyes and thinking, and I saw the wheels in my dad's head start turning, like, how am I gonna make this happen? And the cold sweats and everything. So it was tough for me. I didn't want to speak a lot about it, because I knew at that time my parents couldn't afford it, and I told them, I'm going to university, I'm going to stay on campus, but you don't need to worry about it. And they didn't take note of me, because they thought, this girl's gonna come next week and say something different. But I think the first step for me was, once I had told my friends, and then once I told my parents and my family, then I told myself. I didn't start with telling myself. I didn't declare to myself yet, because I kind of wanted to see what the reactions would be around it. And I told my friends, I told my family, and then I looked myself in the mirror and I declared it to myself, because I had to tell myself, this is where you are going to go. And no matter how difficult it was, and when I couldn't study anymore, and when because I got really sick in my final year where I literally couldn't even go on further, I had to just keep telling myself, that's where you want to go, this is where you need to be, and this is what you need to do to get there. So yeah, I basically, those are the people I told before I told everyone else. And only once I got my acceptance letter and my bursary letter and I didn't even tell anyone when I got my acceptance letter. I was like, yeah, I got into university, but I kept it quiet, because I knew, yes, you got accepted, but can you pay for it?
Yeah,
So I think I only told the rest of my extended family once I got my bursary, because then it became real. Then it became, it's not just a pipeline dream anymore. I actually made it. I actually got into university on a full scholarship, and I studied for 4 years, and I didn't have to pay a single cent. So that was amazing.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that you declared it to yourself last, because one of our titans actually mentioned, before he embarked on this massive project of his, he had to convince himself first and then convince the others. But it kind of shows like your personality. You're quite the cautious person when it comes to the risk as well.
Yeah.
It's calculated the risk. So it's quite interesting to hear that you actually declared it to everyone else and then to yourself, because it's almost like a promise you make to yourself you're not allowed to break.
Yeah.
Because that's the most sacred promise, right?
Yeah, because I also feel like if I had told myself that and no one else knew, I could have changed my mind.
Of course.
I could have then said, I didn't tell anyone, so I don't really need to go.
Yep.
But the fact that I told people, now I knew people are watching me, I need to make this happen. So I think that's just how, you know, it would have been easy for me to say, you know, I didn't really want to go to university, and because I didn't tell anyone. But when I told people, it was like, okay, now I need to make this happen no matter what.
Which brings us to the last chapter, right? And where a lot of people struggle, because this is the hardest thing, is to say something, right? Saying something to other people makes you accountable.
Yeah.
But the doing part. So briefly explain to us the steps. What did you have to do to achieve the goal of going to university? Because remember, I think university was probably the second or third step, but it wasn't the final step, because university creates something in you that you can put out into the world. So what did you have to do to get to that part?
Oh, there's so many things. I mean, it's not just you make a decision and yes, I'm going to go to university. There's so much hard work that goes into it. Because I didn't have the financial support and the even the knowledge of how to get into university. My parents couldn't help me. My siblings also didn't know what it was to apply for bursaries and things. Google was my friend, and teachers were my friend, and even the teachers at my public school didn't exactly know what you needed to get into university. So I think knowledge was really something I had to chase and had to search for, and so that was the first step. When I told myself I need to get to university, I had to find out what you need to get into university. So it was going to open days, it was getting pamphlets. I had stacks and stacks of books everywhere of university open days and college open days of what I needed to get into university. And then, you know, the trend was that you needed to do well academically, and that was the first thing I needed to focus on, was that before I could consider anything, I needed to get my marks where I needed to be to get into university. And then it was a case of focusing and taking every single test seriously, taking every single class seriously. There was no more, you know, I'm not feeling well today, so I'm not going to go to class, or mommy, daddy, I don't really feel like, you know, or I'm not going to pay attention in history today because I know what this is about. It was really focusing, because I knew I'm putting in the time now for me to get to university in a couple of years from now. So it was a lot of pushing myself, those moments when you feel like you just don't want to anymore, and you're just tired and you're exhausted. But I just had to tell myself, if you're gonna be tired and exhausted for 1 hour or 1 day, it's gonna prolong your experience into getting there. So I had to really focus. I had to set out a plan for myself. So I knew grades was the most important thing. I had to focus on grades, and I did that. So fix my grades, and then it was a case of figuring out how I'm gonna pay for this thing. So now to get into it, they'll accept me, great. I figured that out, and now how do you pay for this thing? And it was a lot of, like I said, Google, financial services, study loans. But I told myself I do not want to study loan, because I don't want to be in debt for the rest of my life. And so I had to just figure out what it is, and I got so much information on different types of bursaries and partial student loans, where half of it becomes a bursary, or it becomes a bursary if you get A's, and if you don't, then it's a student loan, things like that. I was looking for a way to get there, but to not sit with debt for the rest of my life, because that I just made clear to myself. So it was about doing lots of research and then creating a plan for myself as to how, you know, these are the steps that I need to take. Study hard, focus, apply for bursaries and loans, and then hopefully you'll get there. And then that was
it worth it in the end though? Like because you finished with university now, and you're embarking on a career trajectory that's going to be a dynamic take on what a person's life can be, and look forward to interviewing again at that point. Has it been worth all that effort?
You know, funny enough, in my first year out of university, I felt like it wasn't worth it because I had studied this long and I started a job as an intern, and I thought to myself, everyone told me once you have a degree you're gonna earn the big money, and that's not the case. But I pulled through, and after that year of working being an intern, I then jumped straight into a senior position, which then moved me to another senior position for a bigger company. So definitely worth it. In the beginning it doesn't seem that way, and I felt like I wasted 4 years of my life at university, but it took me a year before you actually start gaining the, what is it, the output of the
experience,
the
value
out of attending attending university, because no one tells you after university you're not just going to walk into a job and the guys are going to pay you the big bucks. That doesn't happen. But I must say that it's definitely worth it, because if anything, if you don't even finish university, the fact that you are there, it already changes your mindset. It already changes your outlook on life. It already makes you see that there's so many possibilities. And I look at just people around me that hasn't gone to university. The way they think and the way they do things is completely different. And I look at people that do go to university. It's completely different. So if anything, I do think that you going to a university or me attending a university definitely shifted my mindset, and shifted my goals and my outlook in life, and that is what gave me that drive to always just keep pushing and focusing and making sure that I achieve the best all the time, and set the bar extremely high for myself, and then just keep on pushing to reach it.
Great. In closing, the process of accept, visualize, declare, do you think you can only apply this in your job, in your career, in your chosen profession, or do you think it can be applied to life as well?
It can definitely be applied to life. I mean, if you're going to accept the situation that you are in and try to visualize where you want to be in a couple of, I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's your career or your work environment. It can be your family, it can be personal with your relationships and where you see your relationship going.
Of course.
I do think that you can implement it in every aspect of your life. Because everything we do kind of has like a domino effect.
Of course.
So when we make a decision and we see where we want to be, everything that, all the steps that we take to get there, whether it be career-wise, work-wise, or family goals, whatever, it affects everything, and it affects everyone around us. So I do think it's not just something to think of in your career, but definitely in your personal life as well. Yeah. Okay,
great. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been a fun session, and we look forward to your future success.
Thank you so much. Interview me in like 2 years from now.
Cool.